You guys still care about the Jungle Book, don't you? No? Better late than never, I guess. Jungle Book is directed by Jon Favreau, who has directed the first two Iron Man movies. Now he is back with Disney to direct the live-action adaptation of the classic Disney cartoon, The Jungle Book. And for me, I was not looking forward to this movie at all. I thought it was just going to be another one of those shameless, stupid live-action adaptations that Disney has been making, like Maleficent and Alice in Wonderland, and just movies like that that are just there just to make money, and they're so boring and overly stylized and just big pieces of crap. So I thought that, and I thought to myself, I'm going to watch the original Jungle Book to see how the new one compares to it. And I discovered that the old cartoon is not very good. Now I know that might sound a little blasphemous from you die-hard Disney fans, but this movie is really unimpressive. That whole movie just really feels like a sequence of events with no tying plot to it at all. It just seems like a bunch of stuff that happens to this kid with a beginning and an end. And there's no real narrative tying it all together. And on top of that, the animation, some of the animation cells are gorgeous, but a lot of it is super redundant. And what I mean by that is a lot of the cells that they drew were repeated. And I think that was a budget problem. But if you look back, when I was watching it, I was like, I'm pretty sure I've seen that shot before, and it's because I had. They reuse the same shots, not just like once or twice, but they do it frequently with tons of shots in this movie. So when I discovered that the original movie wasn't as good as I had thought it was, it made me a little more optimistic. But I believe that remakes are the best when the movie had a really good idea or premise, but because of budget or the time period or whatever you may have, it wasn't able to deliver to its full potential. A few examples being John Carpenter's The Thing, Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, Ocean's 11. I mean, these movies are really good remakes of movies that didn't have the money or there was the time or something just came together to make those good ideas not work to their full potential. Now the point is just because it's a remake doesn't mean it's an unwarranted piece of garbage that's just there for the sole purpose on sucking your nostalgia straight in the neck just to make a few bucks! But this film, I am pleased to say, is not one of those. In fact, this movie is really, really entertaining. A lot of things culminate to make this movie as good as it is, and my favorite part is probably the cast. The Jungle Book has a great cast, with names like Bill Murray, Idris Elba, Ben Kingsley, Scarlett Johansson, Christopher Walken, Gus from Breaking Bad, Lupita Nyong'o, who played Maz Kanata in The Force Awakens. All those people do a really, really great job in this movie. Bill Murray does such a good job. Bill Murray is perfect casting for Baloo. His character is like this big, irresponsible bear that just wants to have fun and eat honey, and he's voiced so well by Bill Murray. But my favorite performance in this movie, easily, without a doubt, one of the best villains in this whole year, probably my favorite villain in any movie this whole year, is Idris Elba playing Shere Khan. Whoo, man, jeez, this guy is intimidating. Oh my god! Now, the original Shere Khan in the 1967 classic Disney film is a very weak part of that movie. He's just this English fellow that kind of walks around and he's like mad at Mowgli, and then you don't really know why besides the fact that he's just a kid, and it doesn't really, you don't really feel his motivation, and he is not intimidating at all because there's this big British cat. The point is that you have a lot of room for improvement, and dear Lord did Idris Elba deliver. He does such a great job. This version of Shere Khan is freaking out for blood, man. His whole motivation is that Mowgli is this man cub. He's this human man in the jungle, and Shere Khan doesn't like that. So when there is this drought, this big peace rock thing It had water covering it, but since there's this drought, all the water evaporates and it's bare. And apparently when all the water's bare, they have this big peace time, and you're not supposed to kill anybody until the water is full to capacity. So Shere Khan is like, hey, when that water is back at the top, that kid is mine. So you really have this sense of urgency throughout the entire movie because you're kind of racing against the clock to see when this water is going to reach the top of this rock because there's floods and things like that. So you really feel this sense of urgency. And when reviewing this movie, I would not be doing my job well if I didn't talk about the amazing CGI in this film. Now, this entire movie, except for Mowgli and maybe a handful of other people, is entirely CGI. Now, you might be like, well, they filmed on location, right? Like, that's a real place that they went to. Nope. Pretty much everything you see in this movie is CGI. From the landscapes, to the animals, to water, everything you see is CGI pretty much. Now that might sound terrible. That might sound awful and disgusting, because maybe you're one of those people that had to suffer through Gods of Egypt like I was. I still have nightmares. But what is great about The Jungle Book is it seamlessly blends reality with these CGI animals and makes them look so good. And they're talking, and they're not just... I originally wanted this movie to have the animals not talk. Now that might sound really weird, but I thought it would be really ballsy if Disney didn't animate the movie, the animals, and making them look like they're talking. I thought it would be cool to make them like actual animals. Now, after watching this, I realized that that wouldn't work, and that's not really the vision that they were going for. But I am really, really impressed because I was thinking that the talking of the animals was going to throw me out of it because it was going to look really cheesy. But it doesn't. It looks so great. As far as problems go with this movie, I only have a few. Scarlett Johansson plays the snake in the movie, and it's not that she did a bad job. She did fine. But her character, the scene with her character in it is very exposition heavy. It really bogs down the movie and felt really out of place, and it just feels like they had it in there just for exposition purposes, which is probably why they had it in there. And another scene that just felt weird is in the movie they do the bare necessities thing, which I'm totally okay with. I expect it in this movie, and I'd be kind of agitated if they didn't have it. But they also try to do the I Want to Be Like You song with King Louie. And that scene doesn't work for me. Bare necessities fit in really well in that scene because it was kind of like a whistle while you work thing. They were doing activities and singing together, and it was like whistling while they were working. With the King Louie song, King Louie is intimidating Mowgli, and then he just starts singing. Now don't get me wrong, I love me some Christopher Walken, and I love me some Christopher Walken singing. But when you're trying to have this serious scene and a suspenseful scene, and then Christopher Walken just starts singing, it's very distracting. And the kid that plays Mowgli, I had a little bit of a problem with his performance. Now, I totally understand that this kid is acting to nothing. He's probably acting to these tennis balls that he has to look at and act off of. I totally get that. But there were a few scenes where his acting was a little shaky, and it felt like a child performance. But since the fact that he is acting to nothing, I'm going to give him a pass on that, and I'm not really going to dock the movie for that. The Jungle Book is entertaining. It's visually a work of art, and it transforms a pretty subpar Disney movie into one of my favorite movies of the year. So I'm going to give The Jungle Book an 8 out of 10. Jon Favreau has directed 2 categories of Disney movies. He's directed the superhero side, and he's directed like the classic kid side. Now, what other side of Disney should he direct? Thank you guys for watching today. I hope you liked today's video. If you did, click on the link down below and subscribe to my channel to see more movie reviews and movie related things. And guys, thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.